It's Thursday, March 23. In the headlines, local news, the Jamaica Police Federation signs compensation deal. In business news, gas prices down. In the region, the Bahamas government backs Mexico's $10 billion lawsuit holding U.S. gun makers liable for gun trafficking. Internationally, after arrest warrant for Putin, Russia opens its own case against the ICC. In sports news, no rigid sanitization regime for the full scheduled champs set to begin in the last week of March. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I am Maya Chung. Minister with responsibility for information Robert Morgan says the government is protecting the rights of all Jamaicans in the wake of mixed marks from the American State Department in its performance in that area in 2022. The remarks are in response to a report from the U.S. State Department. Simone Absalom Gale reports.
In its report released on Monday, the U.S. State Department gave the Jamaican government low marks for its performance in areas such as fatal shootings by members of the security forces, among other things. However, responding to the report, Minister Morgan told the press that the critique has been noted and the government will have to look at those areas as it moves to improve the lives of all Jamaicans. He's quoted saying, "The government of Jamaica continues to focus on the protection of human rights for all citizens. We are developing a country and we do have challenges, but the government has continued to work to address these challenges to ensure we protect the rights of every single citizen." End quote. Simone Absalom Gale reporting for the news on PBCJ.
The Jamaica Police Federation has joined the list of public sector bodies who have signed on to the public sector compensation restructuring. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says the agreement was signed on Tuesday night. He confirmed in a tweet saying, quote, "This signing of this MOU now paves the way for $10.2 billion to be paid out to our rank-and-file policemen and policewomen, representing retroactive amounts given the April 1, 2022 implementation date of this reform," end quote. Dr. Clark had told the members of the lower house that the signing of the agreement by the Federation would bring to 95% the number of public sector workers who have agreed to the new compensation structure.
Madam Speaker, we expect that certainly for the groups who have signed, the retroactive payments will be paid out this month. It may not come on the 25th clearly because a lot of the agreements were just signed. Some of them have been signed today. Today's the 21st. But we will endeavor that the funds will leave the consolidated fund by the end of the month.
The Police Officers Association, POA, which represents gazetted officers of the JCF from the rank of Assistant Superintendent to Commissioner, is among groups yet to accept the new wage offer under the review. The activities to define the observation of National Math Week were announced on Wednesday, March 22 by National Math Coordinator with the Ministry of Education and Youth, Tamika Benjamin, at a JIS think tank session. Ms. Benjamin outlined some of the events scheduled.
The Ministry of Education and Youth has designated the week of March 26 to March 31, 2023, National Mathematics Week. One of the objectives of the National Mathematics Program is to improve the attitudes and the culture towards mathematics teaching and learning in Jamaica. We recognize that a number of our children and our teachers and parents have a negative attitude to the subject and are sometimes unable to see the relevance of the subject to their everyday life and experience. And we believe that that is a significant part of the barrier we need to break down to improve student performance in mathematics across all levels of the education system. We started celebrating National Mathematics Week in 2013 and managed to maintain activities for at least 2 years through the period of the pandemic. I believe the activities were disrupted in 2020 at the initial onset of the pandemic, but we managed to facilitate activities in 2021 and in 2022, mainly virtually. So since we have gone back fully to face-to-face in terms of teaching and learning, this year will be the first time since 2020 when we will resume our face-to-face activities for National Mathematics Week.
Activities should kick off on Sunday.
We begin on Sunday the 26th at 10 a.m. with a church service, which will be held at the Clifton New Testament Church of God on Mannings Hill Road. And all persons are welcome to join us as we commit the week of activities to the Lord, as well as continue to pray, because this is something we believe requires prayer for change and growth, the growth that we want to see locally. Then on Monday the 27th of March, we gather at the University of the West Indies in the Assembly Hall for the launch of the week of activities, and embedded in that program will be the award ceremony for the 2023 Mathematics Teacher of the Year competition, which is a joint venture between the Ministry of Education and Youth and the Jamaica National Group.
According to Ms. Benjamin, there will be 7 regional activities in which Jamaica will be participating. The activities were designed with all stakeholders in the development of a math-positive population in mind.
One of the things we are again trying to do, we started it in 2021, is to use a week of activities to engage a wide cross-section of stakeholders. So we know most of our activities will target our teachers and students, but we also recognize the importance of parents to this conversation and to our drive to change the attitudes to the subject. So we're having that session that will be facilitated on Wednesday, the 29th, virtually.
She raised the idea of STEM innovation during the session.
On Friday, we will launch a STEM Innovation Village. Again, last year, we started to help students see the very strong link between mathematics and STEM, particularly when we recognize that there are a number of STEM jobs within the local market that are currently underserved. And so we wanted to use it as an opportunity to show students some direct, lucrative opportunities that are available for them should they want to pursue those careers.
And it's now time for the business report with Danita Rodney.
Motorists should see a decrease at the pumps in the price of gasoline effective Thursday, March 23, according to the latest ex-refinery cost from Petrojam. With both grades of gasoline down by $3.06, 87 octane will sell for $164.76 per liter, while 90 octane gasoline will sell for $169.24 per liter. Down $4.50, automotive diesel fuel will sell for $191.62 per liter, ultra-low sulfur diesel will sell for $202.47, and kerosene will sell for $202.67 per liter. Continuing with the $4.50 decrease, propane liquid petroleum will sell for $64.45 per liter, and butane liquid petroleum will sell for $70.92 per liter. Remember, marketing companies and retailers will add their respective markup to these prices. Tax Administration Jamaica TAJ is reminding employers that the due date for filing the employer's annual return SO2 is Friday, March 31, 2023. Taxpayers are reminded that the return must be filed online using the tax portal at www.jamaicatax.gov.jm and can only be done once employers and/or their agents are registered to do so. The tax authority is also reminding the public that it will open select tax offices this Saturday, March 25, 2023, which represents the last of the month-end Saturday operations for the financial year 2022-2023. The following tax offices will operate this Saturday between the hours of 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. St. Andrew, Constant Spring, Montego Bay FCJ Building at 11 to 12 Almond Way, Montego Bay Freeport, Mandeville, Savannah Lamar, and St. Anne's Bay. The Saturday service enhancement continues to provide taxpayers with a convenient option of doing business on these weekends, as well as to alleviate the usual high walk-in traffic at tax offices during the busy month and weekend period. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Wednesday, March 22, the US dollar sold for an average of $151.71. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $112.03. The pound sterling traded for $185.83, and the euro sold for an average of $166.10. In JSE trading, the JSE index advanced by 1,812 points. The junior market index declined by 46 points. The combined market index advanced by 1,251 points. And the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 2,900 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 124 stocks, of which 34 advanced, 47 declined, and 43 traded firm. Stocks advanced for AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and Berger Paints Jamaica Limited. Trading firm were Blue Power Group Limited, Caribbean Cream Limited, and Elite Diagnostic Limited. The overall volume leaders were Sagicor Select Funds Limited Financial with over 4 million units, Wixon Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares with over 3 million units, and Sagicor Select Funds Limited Manufacturing and Distribution with over 2 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Calypso Macro Index Fund posted a volume of 530 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, First Caribbean International Bank was a sole security trading 300 shares. In regional business, with greater access to the internet and technology in Guyana following the liberalization of the full telecommunications sector in 2020, Guyanese businessman Andre Robinson is hoping to help state agencies and businesses to bridge the digital divide.
Andre Robinson left Guyana as a teen and lived for many years in Africa and the United States. With over 20 years' experience in the technology field and currently serving as an advisor to government agencies in New York and New Jersey on IT solutions, he's hoping to use some of his skill set, experience, and knowledge to bridge the digital divide in Guyana. In so doing, he has started his own business, Modernize IT Solutions, and is confronting the task of transforming Guyana's technological landscape to international standards. Launched in December 2022, the business currently offers an intelligent Wi-Fi system, providing sophisticated levels of security for corporate data and people connected to the Wi-Fi of companies and agencies.
So currently, the services we offer, we have an intelligent Wi-Fi system. So basically, with this system, any business that typically shares their Wi-Fi with their visitors, with their guests, right? So for example, like a restaurant, they would share their Wi-Fi, with the patrons that are coming in to, dine, right? This Wi-Fi system, it can be used for several purposes, right? But the main purpose would be security. A lot of times businesses, when they share their Wi-Fi, they got to give out the Wi-Fi password. And that password, if someone knows the login portal or the login to get to the back end of the Wi-Fi system, they can get in there and they can do some malicious activities, right?
The intelligent Wi-Fi system, Robinson says, can also be used by local businesses for marketing, advertising, and collecting feedback.
You can use your Wi-Fi to advertise to those people who are connecting to your Wi-Fi. So you make it a process whereby they have to see that ad before they can use the Wi-Fi. If they don't, if they say, no, I don't want to look at this ad, then they can't use it. So you make it mandatory, right? So you can use it for advertising. You can also use it for marketing.
Robinson is also leveraging artificial intelligence and is in the process of designing robots to help with the overall improvement to service delivery. Also,
in international business, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates by 1/4 percentage point, but indicated it was on the verge of pausing further increases in borrowing costs after the recent collapse of 2 U.S. banks.
Amid recent turmoil in financial markets spurred by the collapse of 2 U.S. banks, Fed Chair Jerome Powell Wednesday announced an interest rate hike of 1/4 percentage point and indicated the Fed was on the verge of pausing further increases, as Powell warned that stress in the banking industry could trigger a broad credit crunch with significant implications for the U.S. economy.
We believe, however, that events in the banking system over the past 2 weeks are likely to result in tighter credit conditions for households and businesses, which would in turn affect economic outcomes. It is too soon to determine the extent of these effects, and therefore too soon to tell how monetary policy should respond. As a result, we no longer state that we anticipate that ongoing rate increases will be appropriate to quell inflation. Instead, we now anticipate that some additional policy firming may be appropriate.
The Fed's relentless rate hikes to rein in inflation are among factors blamed for the biggest banking sector meltdown since the 2008 financial crisis. Policymakers have stressed the turmoil is different from the crisis 15 years ago, saying banks are better capitalized and funds more easily available. Powell insisted the system was sound after the spate of actions that the central bank and other regulators have taken in the last 2 weeks.
These actions demonstrate that all depositors' savings in the banking system are safe. We will continue to closely monitor conditions in the banking system and are prepared to use all of our tools, as needed, to keep it safe and sound.
But while deposits might be safe, the recent banking dysfunction could hurt consumers in other ways. As banks pull back, loans might be harder to come by. Christian Ledoux is a director at Cap Trust.
The banking situation is actually disinflationary, as banks are going to be responding to this by loaning less and being a little bit more conservative.
That could help the Fed back off its inflation fight. This is quite a shift from a few weeks ago when a series of stronger than expected economic reports had raised concerns the Fed would continue lifting rates longer than anticipated and to a higher level.
In market data for oil prices dipped, having hit their lowest since late 2021 earlier this week. Brent crude futures were down 54 cents to $76.15 a barrel, while West Texas Intermediate crude dropped 62 cents to $70.28. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Denita Rodney.
In regional news, the Bahamas is backing Mexico's $10 billion lawsuit to hold American gun makers liable for facilitating the trafficking of American-made guns. Marlena Leonard has the story.
In our view, is that the right to bear arms cannot mean a right to traffic in arms.
Prime Minister Philip Davis announcing the Bahamas, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Trinidad and Tobago are teaming up with the Latin American and Caribbean Network for Human Security to join Mexico's case to hold American gun manufacturers responsible for their role in gun trafficking. Mexico's first case against the U.S. gun manufacturers was dismissed in September of last year. When asked if Davis has any fears that this appeal may also be dismissed, he says,
I acknowledge that the case will not be easily won. You would have heard me say that in my opening remarks. All right, but we think that by joining our voices together, it will attract the attention of the lawmakers in the United States to demonstrate how serious we are about this concern. I think the case was dismissed on legal grounds, and whether it'll be successful or not will rest on the interpretation by the Court of Appeal of those legal grounds.
In front of a table of over 100 guns, Commissioner of Police Clayton Fernander tells us of their origin.
Almost 95% of our serious crime is as a result of firearms. The year 2022, we were able to take 400 weapons off our streets. 90% of the weapons traced from the U.S., and this is the highest in the region.
Newly elected president of the Guyana Olympic Association, Godfrey Monroe, said the new executive body is keen on forging partnerships with the government through the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport and the National Sports Commission to drive the process of development.
Minister, we'd like to thank you for taking the invitation on short notice to meet with us. I think it's truly a dawn of a new era. The roadmap that you've outlined in terms of the alignment and objectives of the government and Sports Commission is in alignment with the Olympic Committee. I believe all the international federations also. There's similar synergies and partnerships that rely on our collective engagement. I believe this committee is quite committed to the task of propelling sport in a new direction, and we're happy for this meeting and for our future collaborations and engagement. So, thank you.
In St. Kitts and Nevis, Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew joined colleagues in Grenada for the 2023 RSS Council of Ministers meeting, where several matters of regional security were discussed. Glenn Bart reports.
Prime Minister Drew was accompanied by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, Ms. Cecile Hull, the recently appointed Commissioner of Police, Mr. James Sutton, and the Commander of the St. Kitts and Nevis Defence Force, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Comrie. Referring to the 22nd March meeting, Dr. Drew posted, quote, "The one-day meeting provided a platform for regional leaders to exchange ideas and discuss best practices for enhancing regional security," end quote. The meeting heard opening remarks from current chairman of the RSS Council of Ministers, Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell, and the RSS Executive Director, Commodore Errington Sherland.
The RSS continues to build out its capacity and that of member states in responding to transnational crime beyond a traditional approach of incarceration and fines. The vision is to bankrupt the criminals by removing their heartbeat, the money, the profit, or the assets involved in engineering or resulting from these criminal activities. To this end, the RSS, through its Asset Recovery Unit, the ARU, in collaboration with the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, is working to implement the FATF 40 recommendations and 11 immediate outcomes across member states. Further, the ARU cooperates with other agencies such as CARICOM Impacts to develop capacity in asset recovery and financial investigations in the wider Caribbean region. Our citizenry can rest assured that the response mechanisms of the RSS, along with its international diplomatic relations and partnerships, will function effectively to counter current and emerging threats to our societies.
At the RSS, we look forward to assisting our member states with diagnosing crime and security problems through the Regional Crime Observatory. We will continue to implement and assist with anti-corruption programs, and we will continue to assist and enhance the border security framework through robust assessments and adjustments to the coordinated response model. As we embark on our discussions today on the best approaches to tackling the common crime and security issues which compound us, we must equally assess the likely environment and the manifestation of the threats and risks to come in the medium to long term.
Also present were high-ranking officials representing the U.S. Embassy to the OECS in Barbados and a representative of the European Union. Glenn Bart reporting for SKN Newsline.
In news on the international scene, Russia has opened its own criminal investigation into the International Criminal Court's ICC prosecutor and judges, which issued an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin recently. Russia's investigative committee says the ICC has knowingly accused an innocent person of a crime in a show of defiance against the court. The Russian probe comes after the court issued an arrest warrant for President Vladimir Putin for war crimes over the alleged deportation of children from Ukraine to Russia. Al Jazeera's Jonah Hull reports from London, the United Kingdom.
40 countries, fewer than a third of all signatories to the International Criminal Court, gathered in London, affirming their support for the court's work in Ukraine. The journey towards international justice will be long, its scope vast, and these mainly Western members of the court have pledged money and resources to the cause.
We share the belief that President Putin and the wider leadership must be held to account, and it's absolutely vital that we unite behind the ICC and that we support the Office of the Prosecutor with whatever it needs.
Appealing for support, the ICC's chief prosecutor said the very concept of international justice was at stake.
If we don't, at this moment in world affairs, cling to the law, if we don't look at ourselves and decide how we can do better, not just in Ukraine, but as nations, as member states of the United Nations, we will not only miss an opportunity, but we may not have further opportunities.
High on everyone's agenda was the first major step on that journey. Arrest warrants issued last week for Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Children's Rights Commissioner, charged with the illegal deportation of Ukrainian children. Russia's response a day after President Putin toured the Ukrainian city of Mariupol, now under Russian occupation, was to issue criminal charges against the ICC itself for ignoring Putin's immunity as head of state under international law. So the chief prosecutor of the ICC, Karim Khan, has urged countries here to find the stamina to deliver international justice. But the real test of that stamina will not be in pledges made at conferences like these, but in countries signed up to the ICC recognizing their obligation to deliver on its orders in the name of international justice. Like South Africa, a signatory to the ICC, which failed to arrest Sudan's Omar Hassan al-Bashir on an ICC warrant when he visited the country in 2015. President Putin is due there for a summit in August, and the South African presidency says it is aware of its legal obligations. Mr. Putin may have to rethink his plans, now a wanted man in the International Criminal Court's quest for justice. Jonah Hull, Al Jazeera, London.
In sports news, an air of excitement is now permeating the nation as students from across the country, the region, and wider international space prepare for the Issa Grace Kennedy's Boys and Girls Athletics Championships champs. In a discussion on the PBCJ program, PBCJ Presents, President of the Inter-Secondary School Sports Association, Issa, Keith Wellington, indicates that all stakeholders in the legendary champs are welcoming back a full schedule event which was disrupted in 2019 by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, the last time we had full champs was 2019, but Issa has been leading in terms of trying to keep our students involved in various activities. So we did have champs in 2021 and 2022, but it was a very reduced version, very different from what we would have become accustomed to.
Champs Light.
Right, the Champs Light, right, Champs Light.
Mr. Wellington described the difference between the event as last held in 2019 to the full return of 2023.
Well, first of all, the most significant difference between what we are able to do this year and what we had to do after COVID is that we now are able to have more students participating because we are no longer, well, while we accept that COVID is not totally gone and there are still precautions that we need to take, there are a lot less restrictions on us. So in terms of the space that we occupy, we are able to have more persons in, so more students are able to participate. The schedule itself, we do not have that rigid scheduling of sanitizing
and you can watch that full interview this Friday on PBCJ Presents at 5 p.m. and a repeat on Monday, March 27 at 10 p.m. That's the news on PBCJ. I am Maya Chung. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks for watching.